Tonight, a horrifying mass stabbing on a Manitoba First Nation. What we know about the connection between the suspect and one of the victims.
We can say that she is a hero.
And how an RCMP officer is being credited with stopping a rampage.
Come tomorrow, I will tell you.
Also, what the Carney government is set to reveal in a sweeping announcement and how it could target electric vehicles. Plus, a patriotic premiere at the kickoff to Toronto's world-renowned film festival.
I'm not changing. I like me.
How one Canadian is honoring another on the big screen.
I love my country. I consider Canada my third parent.
And paying tribute to the country.
And I'm grateful that I got to grow up in this incredible.
In the true north, strong and free.
In the true north, strong and free, yeah.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. Horror and heartbreak on a Manitoba First Nation tonight. After a vicious mass stabbing, RCMP are calling a senseless act of violence. They say an 18-year-old woman is dead, allegedly killed by her brother.
Following the stabbings, the suspect, who was Tyrone Samard, who was a 26-year-old male from the community of Hollowwater, fled the community in a stolen vehicle.
Police say a female police officer was seriously injured when her vehicle collided with the fleeing suspect, who died as a result of the crash. The officer is expected to make a full recovery. All of it happening on the Hollowwater First Nation, about 200 kilometers northeast of Winnipeg, where some of the 7 others who were injured in the attack were airlifted. They are between the ages of 18 and 60. Their families in shock.
He was stabbed several times, but he got him in the lung, punctured his lung, and he's okay, he's talking.
Roads in the area remain closed as the investigation continues. Police say the wounded were found in 2 separate locations. The Premier today praising the female officer.
But we can say that she is a hero. She stopped a man on a rampage. So on behalf of the province of Manitoba, I thank her.
The attack comes 3 years to the day another mass stabbing in Saskatchewan on the James Smith Cree Nation, where 11 people were killed and 17 were injured. Overseas, 2 Canadians are believed to be among the dead after a fatal streetcar crash in the Portuguese capital. CTV's Heather Wright with what new details authorities are revealing about the tragedy.
From above, the extent of the damage is clear. Belongings strewn amidst the mangled wreckage of the popular Lisbon railcar, which derailed last night. At least 16 people were killed, 22 injured after the railcar careened down the steep hill and slammed into a building. 2 Canadians are believed to be among the dead as Portuguese officials work to identify the bodies. With a high degree of probability, we've identified 1 German citizen, 2 Canadians, a Ukrainian, and another American, the Judicial Police Director says, adding 3 people are still unidentified. Global Affairs Canada says it's aware 2 Canadian citizens are missing and is working with authorities in Lisbon. Today, Portugal's president and prime minister visited the scene on what was declared a national day of mourning. Part of the wreckage was removed today as investigators combed the crash site. The funicular, a type of cable car that is used to climb steep hills, is popular with both locals and tourists, carrying more than 3.5 million passengers every year. Officials are investigating whether it was a snapped cable that caused the rail car to lose control, but the company that operates the funicular says at this point it is too early to know, and anything is mere speculation. Omar.
All right, Heather, thank you. And back here at home, an incredibly close call at a hospital west of Toronto, where a car nearly flew off a parking garage. An SUV dangling from the parkade of the Credit Valley Hospital in Mississauga, 4 levels above ground. The 2 people inside the vehicle suffering only minor injuries.
Must have hit the gas pedal by mistake instead of the brake and ran. And the only thing that stopped him was that cell tower. Otherwise, if he had hit the wall, he would have come directly right out into the parking lot.
But the incident caused plenty of destruction. 3 vehicles were crushed by the concrete wall dislodged from the impact. Fortunately, no one was inside those vehicles. And Ontario Provincial Police have identified human remains discovered 45 years ago in Algonquin Park as belonging to this man, Eric Ricky Singer of Cleveland, Ohio. Investigators released a clay model in 1987 of what they believed the man looked like, but it wasn't until after his DNA was entered into a database in 2022 that they were led to his family and eventually his identity. And new details tonight about what Mounties seized in their raid of a compound in Saskatchewan that housed a woman that calls herself the Queen of Canada. The 16 people arrested yesterday were released, but the woman was rearrested along with a man. Both are now back in custody. CTV's Alison Bamford on what police discovered.
Downed fences and a handful of RCMP vehicles. All that's left of yesterday's early morning raid. Mounties moved in on the abandoned school, serving as a compound for a fringe conspiracy group. RCMP say they seized 13 imitation handguns and ammunition, while making 16 arrests, including the self-proclaimed Queen of Canada, Romana Didolo, who live-streamed it online.
You're under arrest.
All right.
2 remain in custody, a man and a woman, after being rearrested, according to police. The cult moved into town 2 years ago. The conspiracy theorist and her followers' antics were profiled last year in a W5 documentary.
I was working in my yard in the fall and I could feel someone looking at me or watching me. I spotted someone and they actually had their phone and they were taking pictures.
More than a year later, and Hugh Everding says the groups stopped recording residents. He can see the compound from his front yard, but has never feared for his safety.
After a while, you realize that, Romana Didolo isn't a threat, and you just go about your daily business.
Others we spoke to say they've avoided this area for the last 2 years. Now, this afternoon, we did see people walking around outside the compound. Some were loading up vehicles and driving off. Right now, it's unclear what will happen to this group and if they'll leave for good. RCMP say they'll continue to investigate. Alison Bamford, CTV News, Richmond.
We are learning tonight there will be a sweeping announcement that could create a roadmap to how Canada can reduce its dependence on the United States. And joining us now is CTV's chief political correspondent, Vashi Kapellos. And Vashi, tell us what you are hearing about this announcement, which is expected tomorrow.
Hi, Omar. Here's what I can tell you about what I know the Prime Minister and a host of ministers are set to announce together tomorrow. The announcement will be wide in scope and primarily aimed at addressing how Canada can be more competitive and how we can shore up domestic industries in light of the trade war with the United States. And to that effect, the most significant thing I'm being told is that some key Trudeau-era policies, key environmental policies, including things like electric vehicle mandates, could be up for review or discussion. In particular, those EV mandates, especially, it could be announced as soon as tomorrow, will be reviewed. Not gotten rid of, but reviewed. I'm told to expect a lot of news on that front and other economic fronts. Omar?
All right, thank you, Vashi Kapellos. In Toronto, we're at a cabinet meeting. The Prime Minister laid out that he wants to deliver an October budget that invests in key industries, but also reins in spending. CTV's Judy Trin takes a look at how the government could accomplish that balancing act.
Prime Minister, what did you accomplish?
The Prime Minister says what was accomplished will soon be revealed.
Come tomorrow, I will tell you.
For 2 days, cabinet ministers huddled behind closed doors to show Mark Carney what savings they found to turn the federal government into a leaner, more efficient machine. The finance minister was asked if there will be public service layoffs.
There'll be adjustment in different places, but at the same time, we're going to be empathic to make sure that we're always there for Canadians.
The Carney government is aiming to cut day-to-day spending of up to 15% over the next 3 years. Federal unions call the move reckless.
I think that public service cuts can do a real harm to Canadians because the public service is there every day to serve Canadians and to protect them and to keep them safe.
The number of federal workers has grown by more than 100,000 people in the past decade. The data shows that as of June, there were more than 357,000 public servants. As the trade war continues, the government is prioritizing investment in defense, housing, and major projects. The opposition leader says that's just more spending.
The government has become a big fat man, and the private sector is a skinny man carrying that fat man up an increasingly steep hill.
The budget will be tabled in October, but complicating matters, the government will be taking in billions less in revenue this year. After Donald Trump complained, the Prime Minister dropped the digital services tax and retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. Omar.
All right, Judy, thank you. And on the sidelines of that meeting, two top cabinet ministers, Mélanie Joly and Dominique Leblanc, spoke about convincing Donald Trump to ease off tariffs on steel, aluminum, autos, and softwood lumber.
Those discussions start by having base understandings, common understandings of a series of potential options that may ultimately form what the Prime Minister said would be a series of small deals.
LeBlanc says the Americans agreed to dig into the technical details during a meeting with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick in Washington last week. Ukraine's president is praising a move by Canada and 25 other Western allies who agreed today to provide security guarantees to Ukraine in the event of a ceasefire with Russia. Following a meeting of the so-called Coalition of the Willing, Prime Minister Mark Carney affirmed a, quote, willingness to deploy direct and scalable military assistance in support of upholding a ceasefire and lasting peace. It is unclear if that means Canadian boots on the ground, though earlier Carney did not rule that out.
Our sovereignty, our identity has come under threat. And when Canadians heard those threats, they channeled their inner John Candy.
And this evening, the Prime Minister spoke at the world premiere of the documentary John Candy by Like Me, as the 50th edition of the Toronto International Film Festival kicked off. The doc was produced by Canadian actor Ryan Reynolds, who shared a hug with Eugene Levy on the red carpet. The film also features an exchange between John Candy and our very own Sandy Ronaldo more than 30 years ago.
So this is life imitating life.
That's it.
Ooh, I don't know if I can handle this.
Action, Sandy.
I am acting. This is it.
And later in the show, we'll bring you Sandy's sit-down with Ryan Reynolds and director Colin Hanks. But first, here's CTV's John Vanavalley-Rao on how the festival has become a marquee cultural event over the half-century it has existed.
Welcome to TIFF! While nowadays TIFF is a magnet for megastars, it wasn't always that way. A festival that in 1976 had a rather humble start. It was a big year for Toronto. The CN Tower opened, the Blue Jays got their name, and a movie fest debuted called the Festival of Festivals.
It was small, a little disorganized, but it was amazing.
Initially ignored by Hollywood, early on, among the few American celebrities to show up was Henry Winkler, a.k.a. the Fonz. Then in 1983, a turning point when The Big Chill had its world premiere in Toronto.
That was a big moment because the cast all came up. And the cast was full of actors who went on to become huge superstars.
Actor Warren Beatty turned up the following year, and there was plenty of Canadian star power too. A festival of festivals that, a decade later, got a name change, something Piers Handling brought about when he took over.
They didn't have film in the title, they didn't have Toronto in the title, they didn't have international in the title.
The newly named TIFF drew even more stars, more world premieres. Movies like American Beauty,
I'll go for D,
and Slumdog Millionaire, which in part because of TIFF was released in theaters.
That was a movie that was supposed to go direct to DVD, wasn't even going to get a theatrical release. TIFF showed it, it became a sensation, it won the People's Choice Award, and then went on to win Oscars.
Among TIFF's memorable moments was Sacha Baron Cohen arriving at a red carpet as Borat in a cart pulled by women dressed as peasants. And Sean Penn famously lit a cigarette during an indoor press conference for all the King's men, violating Ontario's new indoor smoking ban.
One other bit of trivia, at that first festival, an admission ticket to a movie cost just $2. John Vanavalley-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
And coming up, remembering the man who has dressed those Hollywood stars and transformed fashion. How Giorgio Armani redefined global elegance and style. A long-awaited report today on BC's fatal Lapu-Lapu tragedy in April, when an alleged vehicle ramming attack left 11 people dead and dozens injured. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson on what Vancouver police and city officials are now calling for to make future festivals safer.
4 months after 11 people were killed at a Vancouver street festival, the mayor and police say they're making the city safer.
There's not a single city on the planet that can eliminate all risk all the time. But what we can do is plan smarter, act faster.
There are 8 recommendations in the report into outdoor event safety after the attack with an SUV that plowed into pedestrians. Several focus on what's being called hostile vehicle mitigation. The city says it will follow a new consistent direction on when and how to use barriers, as well as design and retrofit public spaces with vehicle-resistant infrastructure.
Making sure that those barriers are there for even low-risk events, if necessary, going forward.
And for larger, higher-risk events like the FIFA World Cup, the mayor says next year Vancouver will be ready to safely welcome the world.
Make no mistake about it, we will be ready for FIFA, and it will be a safe, successful event.
But there is also an acknowledgement more work needs to be done, the city says, at the provincial level to deal with mental illness on Vancouver streets.
We are asking, we are begging for action from the province on this one.
As for the man accused of mass murder at the Lapu Lapu Festival, a hearing has just wrapped up to determine whether Adam Kaiji Low is fit to stand trial. Testimony has been sealed from the public under a publication ban being challenged by CTV and other media outlets.
The judge is expected to deliver his ruling on Low's fitness to stand trial and whether we can report how psychiatrists have described his mental state at the time of the rampage next Wednesday. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
Still ahead, how the world is remembering the legacy of a man whose multi-billion-dollar empire extended well beyond fashion. The fashion world is mourning the loss of Giorgio Armani. The iconic Italian fashion designer who passed away in Milan changed the way people dressed with subdued, tailored classics before building a billion-dollar global lifestyle empire. Here's CTV's Adrian Gabriel with a look back at his legendary career.
His indelible touch is tightly woven into the fabric of global fashion. The man who became a mogul began his career as a merchandiser at an Italian department store. From buying clothing to eventually designing them for various companies, in 1975 a business partner convinced him to start his own line, which would eventually become synonymous with style and fashion culture the world over.
Rolling? We're ready to go. Okay.
Canadian fashion journalist Jeannie Becker covered the Italian designer's international stardom, even dedicating a chapter of her first book to their time spent together.
And see Giorgio Armani hovering near the elevators.
As you read those words in your book and you reflect back on the time you spent with Giorgio Armani.
I just had such fondness for him. You could ask anyone in the fashion business. No one would have a bad word to say about Armani. It wasn't in your face fashion. Check these shoulder pads. This is an old Armani jacket I've hung on to.
In those personal moments when you were sitting down with Giorgio Armani, what will you remember?
I will remember what I always remember about every great person I've ever sat down with, and that's their kindness and their generosity of spirit. And he certainly had that.
Beneath the elegant facade, the Italian designer shared that his greatest weakness was his inability to relinquish control.
I say no, it doesn't work. That sometimes is hard.
In a brief joint statement, his family and fashion house shared their commitment to protecting what he built and to carrying his company forward in his memory.
Was Armani one of one?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, a true original. It was a time. It was such a time in fashion, an era that I don't think will ever be replicated.
Giorgio Armani was 91 years old. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Toronto.
Still ahead, Canadian pride on full display.
I love my country. I consider Canada my third parent.
What a Canadian superstar shared with Sandy Ronaldo about Canadian icon John Candy. We leave you tonight with some of Sandy's conversation with Ryan Reynolds and Colin Hanks, the stars behind the new John Candy documentary that made its debut tonight at TIFF.
Lovely to meet the both of you. You never met John Candy, but he was the inspiration and certainly your idea for this documentary. So what was it? What was the genesis of the idea?
I loved John, and I felt like he brought people together in really interesting ways. I mean, he brought my own family together in interesting ways. I mean, when we would see a John Candy movie, we would all be sitting together. And that's unusual for a star like him to have an audience that can be little kids and grown-ups, and everybody's getting the same amount of enjoyment.
Who are you? I'm a Mog. Half man, half dog.
Gus Polinski, Polka King of the Midwest. Del Griffith, Director of Sales, Shower Curtain Ring Division.
I wonder, Colin, I mean, there's a family connection here. Tom Hanks, your dad starred in Flash and Volunteers, right?
Yeah.
So what was it like for you making this documentary with those family ties in mind?
I mean, I was a little bit hesitant at first because of those, just because there was a component of it maybe feeling a little bit too personal, not because of a deep personal bond or deep personal connection, but it just sort of, I was hesitant for some reason. But the more and more I thought about it, the more and more I thought about what I remember about John, meeting him when I was a kid, is, you know, and the way that he made you feel, that seemed worth celebrating.
This is a guy who, the minute you see his face, you're gonna smile. He was amazingly funny.
Thank you.
You once said that, like me, he was really proud of being a Canadian, but you both have a foot in one camp, Canada and the United States. I wonder what he would make of the current tensions between the two countries, and I'm also curious as to what you would have to say about that.
Yeah, there's some tensions there. Do I think that the United States is going to annex Canada? No, I do not believe that. I don't. I mean, it's unreasonable.
But are you proudly wearing your Canadian flag?
I'd be wearing a hell of a lot more if somebody was going to annex Canada. But yeah, I love my country. I consider Canada my third parent. I consider my values to have come from growing up in this great nation, and I consider my career, I would attribute so much of my career to it, and I think John did as well. John learned that laughing at yourself, that's the target. You don't punch down, you don't kick or hurt other people, if you're gonna hit someone, you hit yourself. And that's what I've done, and that's something that I think I learned watching guys like John do at an expert level forever. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And I'm grateful that I got to grow up in this incredible
In the true
country.
north, strong and
in
free.
the true north, strong and free.
Proud Canadian and a great conversation. That's a snapshot of this Thursday. Heather is here tomorrow. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching and good night.